this, and I'm going to all right. Okay, so let's get going. As we discussed last week, Rupa Goswami has written many books, and we discussed some names like Dan Keli, Kaumudi, Laghu Bhagavatamrit, Stav Mala, Ujjal Nilmani, Lalit Madhav, Dagd Madhav, Padyavali, but the topmost of all of them is Bhakti Rasa. And what I want to do today before I start the class is point out that Srila Prabhupada translated the name of the book from Bhakti Rasa Sindhu to Nectar of Devotion. So nectar means Amrit, which is Rasamrit, so Amrit is there, and Bhakti, which is devotion, so that is there. But the word Rasa and Sindhu are not included in the name that Srila Prabhupada gave to the summary book he wrote on Bhakti Rasa Sindhu. So I just want to spend a second talking about what is Rasa. Rasa means mellow. You can also say that means the essence or the sweetness. So not like a, Rasa actually also in Hindi, it means juice. So juice from a fruit. So that's not what's being talked about here. Rasa here means, like I said, mellow, sweetness, essence, or emotion. So rasa represents the emotion of devotional service. When we get to preface of this book, we should be able to do that today. It talks about the fact that the Bhakti Rasa does not finish when we leave our body. It rather exists eternally as supported by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 text 40, which says Neha Vikram Nashosti Prattivayo Navidyate Swalpam Apyasa Dharma se Trayate Mahatohat. Like whatever we gain is ours permanently. Next life we get, we start from whatever point we left off. And as you also remember that if we leave our body without achieving perfection, then going to chapter 6, text 41, which says, Prapta Purna Kratam Lokan, Shitva Shaswati Sama, Suchinam Shimatam Gehe, Yoga Bhashto Abhijayate, which means that if we leave our body without achieving perfection, then first we enjoy in the heavenly kingdom, then we come down to a household of a pious person or aristocrat person, and we have the option of taking off from wherever we left. That is if we have been doing devotional service for a short period of time. But for a long period of time, if you have been doing it, then we take birth in the house of a yogi. Atva yogi namapi kule bhavati dhimata tati dullab taram loke janma yad idrisham, which says that if you have been doing devotional service for a long time, we take birth in the house of a devotee, where we continue from the point we had left off. Either way, or whichever way you want to take a look at, the point is nectar, in this amrit, in that it never goes away. So whatever devotional service we have performed, whatever devotional credit we have earned, they are ours forever and ever and ever, eternally. So as I said, we'll talk about this point in a little more detail when we come to the preface of this book. Now, the next section is dedication. Let me see if I have here, just 1 second, please. Okay, let me try and share the screen. Okay, and share. There you go. Oops, sorry. Yeah. So this is the second stanza from the sixth Shad Goswami Ashtakam. And what I'm going to do is, let's see if I can get a famous personality to sing this particular song. I hope I can get it. No. Okay, so hold on 1 second. Maybe I'll stop sharing and then it'll work. Okay, yes. Okay. So it didn't work as well as I thought it would, but you heard Srila Prabhupada singing that Shad Goswami Ashtakam. So as I said, this is the second stanza from that particular Ashtakam. And basically what it's saying is that the six Goswamis studied all the revealed scriptures very scrutinizingly. So interesting, scrutinizingly means that they actually read word for word, trying to understand every word, trying to connect the context, various contexts that in which it's being said, and then really understanding what the essence here is. And they did that for all the revealed scriptures, so like not a small amount of work. And then they took the essence, the mellow of all of them that relate to pure devotional service. But pure devotional service of Radha and Krishna, nobody else. So that's what they did, according to this verse. They studied the scriptures scrutinizingly. They took the essence of it that relates to the pure devotional service of Radha and Krishna. And the reason they did that is that people like us, or me, that do not have the time or skills or even desire to read so many scriptures. And therefore, they said, okay, here's the summary form. So they wrote a few books. So you read these books, and you get everything that's contained in these revealed scriptures. Then there's a reference to the two words, religious principles. And basically, the religious principle they're talking about is the fact that we are eternal servants of Krishna. And our ultimate goal is to lovingly and purely serve them. What do I mean by purely? Purely basically means no material desires, no material motivation. We do not want anything. We just want to do this for the pleasure of Krishna. And by doing this service of writing these books, the six Goswamis became famous all over the world. And they engaged in the service of Radha and Krishna with completely absorbed mood of the gopis. So in other words, and we'll talk about this point later on in much more detail, is that they were absorbed in the mood of the gopis in which they're writing all these books. And therefore, this verse is saying they are worth taking shelter of. They're exalted personalities. And also it is saying that there's no need to read other books. If you read the 6 Goswamis books, it's got everything. Now, as we know, Srila Prabhupada summarized this even further. And if you read Prabhupada's books, you don't need to do any more. But as I said, Prabhupada actually translated 2 of the books that Rupa Goswami wrote. Nectar of Instruction, which is Upadeshamrit, and Nectar of Devotion, as we talked about this is Bhakti Rasa. Now, this particular Shad Goswami Ashtakam that we read the second stanza from is written by Srinivasa Acharya. Does anybody know who was the spiritual master of Srinivasa Acharya?
Prabhu, is it Gopal Bhatta Goswami?
Yes, excellent. Gopal Bhatta Goswami. It was his, Gopal Bhatta Goswami was his Diksha Guru. And then later on, Gopal Bhatta Goswami told him to take shelter of Srila Jiva Goswami as his Shiksha Guru. So he had done that. Now, Gopal Bhatta Goswami did something very interesting. He took Srinivasa Acharya to the deity of Radharamanji and said, "My dear Lord, I surrender this disciple of mine to you. And from now on, he's your disciple, your property, and he's completely surrendered to you. Deal with him as you wish." So, I mean, not something very small. I mean, very, very good. And it was Jiva Goswami, after Srinivasa Acharya went to him to beg him to become Shiksha Guru. Jiva Goswami was so impressed with the knowledge, this scriptural knowledge of Srinivasa Acharya, that he gave him the title of Acharya. So that in Srinivas, the Acharya came from Jiva Goswami as the title that he bestowed upon him. As you know, there were 3, friends that we talk about, but actually there were 4 friends together. So Srinivas Acharya is one, Shyamanand Pandit, second one, Narottam Das, third one, and Ramchandra Kaviraj was another friend of these 3 people. They were spending most of the time together. So when Jiva Goswami decided to send all the literature that these 6 Goswamis had been writing to Bengal, where it could be published and distributed and spread the holy name throughout Bengal, they asked the 3 people, Srinivasa Acharya, Shyamanand Pandit, and Narottam Das Thakur, to take all the literature to Bengal. So they got a bullock cart, with these 3 people, 2 drivers and 10 guards. That was the party that left. But somewhere along the way, there was a king by the name of Hamvir. He had hired some dacoits to rob the people who passed through the jungles of his state. So thinking that in the big boxes, there was a lot of jewelry and money and all that. So they looted these people and took away the boxes. I mean, clearly these people were outnumbered, so they couldn't fight. So at that time, Srinivasa Acharya said to Shyamanand Pandit and Narottam Das Thakur that you go back to Jiva Goswami, let him know what has happened, and I'll stay here, see if I can find it. So the dacoits took these trunks of, which were actually books, but thinking there's jewelry and money and all that. They took the trunks to the king. He opened the trunks and see all these books. And the funny thing was that when he touched these books, he had this wave of devotion, go through his body. And he had this feeling of devotion that he never had before. So one day he invited a lot of devotee scholars to come to his place and give discourses from Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srinivasa Acharya heard about that. He also came and gave his discourse of Srimad Bhagavatam. When the king heard the discourse, his heart was completely transformed. And he confessed to Srinivasa Acharya about his whole arrangement with the dacoits and them robbing the books and all that. And he brought back the books, returned them to to Srinivas Acharya, took initiation from Srinivas Acharya and became a Vaishnava devotee along with all his subjects. So not just him. And then at that time, Srinivas Acharya brought the books to Bengal as instructed by Jiva Goswami in the beginning. And actually, Srinivas Acharya is the person who arranged the first Gaur Purnima after Lord Chaitanya left his pastimes in the material world. And it is said that his meditation was so strong, so much concentration, that actually once Lord Chaitanya came and garlanded him. So he was meditating upon Lord Chaitanya, but he actually appeared and garlanded him. So not just that he had a vision, the Lord actually came. So that's the kind of personality Srinivas Acharya was. And he's the one who wrote this Six Swami Ashtaka. So that is the dedication. I'm going to stop for a second and see if there are any questions or comments. I should just point out that dedication means that there's somebody who's either very respected or loved or valued by the author, who wants to express his gratitude to the person he's dedicating to. And so that's the dedication that Srila Prabhupada was making to the 6 Goswamis. Of course, that includes Rupa Goswami. Any comments or questions? Okay, all right. So, by the way, how's the sound? Is sound okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay,
I can hear
that's
you.
great. Thank you. Okay, all right. So let's go to the next section, which is called Preface. Hopefully some of you had a chance to read it, but I'm not going to ask who did or did not. So before I get to that, I also want to point out that you probably have seen many books where you have either a foreword or a preface or a prologue or any combination of those. So first of all, I just want to point out that foreword in a book is like an introduction to the book, but written by a person who's more famous than the author and is better known to the readers than the author. So this person will introduce the author and the book in a foreword. So there was a foreword written for Nectar of Devotion, which is not there anymore. And the reason is that at that time, when Prabhupada was starting this movement, there was a personality by the name of Allen Ginsberg, very famous at that time. He wrote the foreword to this book, Nectar of Devotion, just like George Harrison wrote the foreword for Krishna book. But what happened was that Allen Ginsberg developed such a bad reputation later on that the foreword was removed from the book Nectar of Devotion. But preface is there. So what is a preface? Preface is also like an introduction to a book where it states the subject of the book, the scope of the book, and what is it aiming to achieve. So those are the 3 things typically that you'll find in a preface of a book. Now, for example, for Bhagavad Gita, I don't know if anybody remembers, in the preface of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada talks about the 5 subjects of Bhagavad Gita that are discussed in Bhagavad Gita. And here, and she in Nectar of Devotion summary, Srila Prabhupada uses the preface to introduce Rupa Goswami and the Bhakti Rasa. So he starts the preface by saying that this is a summary study. I think that's the very first line. This is a summary study. Now, what does summary study mean? Basically, it means that Srila Prabhupada is giving explanations in English language of the Sanskrit verses, which contain really intricate concepts given by Rupa Goswami in this book. As you know, he did the same thing in Krishna book. took the entire 10th canto and summarized it in the Krishna book. So the other thing Srila Prabhupada said was that summary means I do what I want. I don't have to stick to any scholastic conventions. I can present it in a way that would be easily understood by the readers. Even those readers who are not very familiar with Krishna or his pastimes or his incarnations, and will minimize any misunderstandings. So when he did the summary, the other benefit to him was the speed. Because if you see the Prabhupada's books about Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, etc., all of them have what? They have the verse, then they have the verse in English language, then you have the basically transliteration, then you have the translation, you have the purport, of all these books. That takes a lot of time, lot of effort. Prabhupada said, I don't have the time. So he said, okay, then I'll do the summary. That way I can continue with my travel plans. I can continue to take care of other things, my preaching and all that, and still write the book. The other thing is that I don't know who told me this, but he quotes verses in this book from memory, which shows the phenomenal memory he has, and that he was an empowered incarnation of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Like, there's no question about it. As a matter of fact, once he said, I haven't written any of these books. Every time I sat down to write, Krishna came and dictated. So that's how powerful he is, and that's how powerful his books are. Again, just going back to Srimad Bhagavatam for a second, he was rushing. He wrote Krishna book because he was rushing to complete Srimad Bhagavatam. He wasn't sure he could do that. And as a matter of fact, he was right. I believe he stopped at chapter 13 of 10th canto, and he was giving the purport on the verse during his last few seconds of life in the material world. So I mean, he had a very good foresight, because of which he did what he did, and we are the beneficiary for what he's doing. Other point I want to make is that Nectar of Devotion is a technical book, and translating it verse by verse would have been extremely difficult, time-consuming, complex, and almost impossible to understand. And I am speaking from experience. I've tried reading the full version in Sanskrit and things like that many times, and I've given up very quickly. I even tried one with the commentaries by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti and Srila Jiva Goswami, and I gave up. It's so difficult to understand. But fortunately, Srila Prabhupada was a genius, and he put the whole thing in a form that even somebody like me has a chance to understand a little bit, at least a little bit, or at least read the whole book without giving up in the middle. So once again, I want to express my gratitude to Srila Prabhupada for writing this summary in a form that I can understand. As I was saying before, it's the most important book for Gaudiya Vaishnava devotees. So I'm glad we are here trying to study this book, and hopefully I'll be able to do a little bit of justice. As I was mentioning last week, many of you have already taken the Nectar of Devotion course. Some of you actually have even taught this for Bhakti Shastri. So you're all very knowledgeable, maybe even more knowledgeable than me. Again, as I mentioned last week, I'm probably going to take a slightly different approach than we have in the Nectar of Devotion Bhakti Shastri course, in that I'll probably end up taking a few tangents. For example, today, I got into some details about Srinivas Acharya that you probably won't get in a lot of detail in the Nectar of Devotion course. Similarly, there may be other topics as they come up. I may take off on a tangent and spend some time explaining those. And the third point is that I'll probably spend a lot of time explaining some concepts that are critical for us to understand, and that may be a lot more than what you had in the Bhakti Shastri course. So that's how this is going to be different from Bhakti Shastri Nectar of Devotion, but hopefully will be enough for you to get over and above what you got in your Nectar of Devotion Bhakti Shastri course. Okay. Now, before we start reading, we should ask ourselves, so who is this book for? Who did Srila Prabhupada have in mind? Who did Rupa Goswami have in mind when he wrote the summary, or Rupa Goswami wrote the original book, Bhakti Rasa? So, Srila Prabhupada says that this book is specifically presented for people who are now engaged in the Krishna consciousness movement, which means that it's for people who are performing devotional service now. But whatever stage of bhakti they are at, they want to become pure devotee. They want the ultimate pure devotee of Lord, of Krishna. And as you know, the ultimate bhakti is the devotional service in Madhurya Rasa, the conjugal mood. But even beyond that is in the Parakiya Bhav, which means the lovers are not married to each other. At least for the pastime purposes, they're not married to each other. That's considered the highest form of devotional service. And of course, when it comes to Radharani, it becomes even higher. So once again, to repeat in case there's any confusion, it's for those people who are any stage of bhakti, but their desire is to get the ultimate bhakti, which is the mood of conjugal mellows in Parakiya Bhav, as expressed by the gopis and above all by Radharani. We also know that Lord Chaitanya gave instructions to Goswamis, specifically Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, although other four also got some instructions, to reveal places of pastimes, construct temples, establish real religion, not the pseudo religion, write books about how a devotee should live. And Srila Prabhupada, for his part, presented that work in this book in a very simple way so we could understand as well. The other point is that the Nectar of Devotion is a very practical book. And that's why it's called the book of Abhideya, the process. It's very practical. It talks about how can we live in this material world while engaged in devotional service. It gives us information about how we can love Krishna. And it says, look, these days people are inventing so many ways to utilize our propensity to love. Because let's face it, everybody needs somebody to love. But in that propensity to love, we're forgetting the real point, which is who should we love? And that is Krishna. By doing that, we are acting as if we are watering all parts of a tree, but not the tree's root. It's like we're trying to keep our body fit by all means, but we are neglecting to supply foodstuffs to the stomach. So I guess you know where I'm going, fourth canto. The Yathatha Mool Nishechanena, Narad Muni is telling the Prachitas that Krishna is the main thing. So missing Krishna means missing oneself. Because let's face it, the real self-realization is realization of Krishna. And actually, they cannot go separately. They go together. If you realize yourself, you have to realize Krishna. If you realize Krishna, you know yourself, which is the eternal servant of Krishna. So they go together. Okay. Let's talk about bhakti for a second. Bhakti is translated in English as devotional service. So it's a service. As opposed to worship, where there doesn't have to be any service. So I can worship a Bollywood hero, a Hollywood hero, a sports hero, or whatever. But in that hero worship, there's no service. I may have a poster, I may have cassettes, not anymore cassettes, but some kind of iTunes music or whatever, and I worship this guy or this woman because whatever their qualities are. But that's not what bhakti is. Bhakti is service, but a very special kind of service. And let's face it, the impetus for any service, like why do we do any service? We do it because we receive some kind of pleasure from it. Otherwise, why would anybody do any kind of service if there's no pleasure for them? And let's face it, in the material world especially, everybody's looking for pleasure, which is very interesting because in the spiritual world, we are giving pleasure. There's no problem with that. But in the material world, everyone's looking for pleasure. So what's the difference? The difference is that in the material world, we don't have pleasure in our heart. We don't feel any pleasure in our heart. So we're looking for it. In the spiritual world, we have all the love in our heart. So therefore, we're giving it. And that's the difference, material world and spiritual world. Right? In the spiritual world, it's already there. I don't need to look for it. The material world is missing. So I have to look for it. Okay. Again, coming back to material world, we're serving. But who are we serving? We're serving our family, maybe working our corporation we work for, or the country we live in, but all that is done with the expectation of some kind of pleasure. Whether it's money or position or name or fame or whatever, but there's some kind of pleasure we're looking for. So expectation of pleasure is called rasa, or mellow if you want to. And rasa means sweet. That's why we want it. But bhakti rasa is a different kind of mellow. It's not your ordinary mellow that you get in the material world, enjoyed by the mundane people. It's different in that bhakti rasa lasts eternally. It does not diminish, as I was saying before. Therefore, it's called amrit, or eternal, because it continues perpetually, eternally. There's no ending. There's no law of diminishing returns. For example, if you're hungry, as we eat, or if you want to listen to music, as we hear a song multiple times, a desire for more of the same is reduced. Right? As we eat, hunger is reduced. As we listen to the same song more and more, multiple times, we lose the desire to hear it anymore. So, okay, enough. Let's hear something else. But not so with bhakti. With material things in the material world, there's a concept of, as Prahlad Maharaj said, punah punas charvit charvananam. That's called chewing the chewed. There's nothing left. It's like if you take sugar cane and you get the juices out in that machine, you've gone through the same machine 3 or 4 times. After that, there's nothing left. You can suck all you want on the remnants. There's no juice. But that is not so in the case of bhakti. Similarly, the material happiness is called chapala sukha, which means flickering, but not so with the bhakti. It's eternal happiness. Once it's there, it's there. And in bhakti, a devotee can realize the presence of Lord Krishna by devotional service. So, in bhakti, devotee realizes the presence of Krishna by the performance of devotional service. But an atheist realizes the presence of Krishna by, in the shape of death. The whole story that Prabhupada is talking about, the mouse and a cat and a kitten and a cat. Kitten sees the cat, says, my mother is here, safe. The mouse sees the cat and says, oh, my death is coming. Same thing. So the point is that all mundane pleasure, just like all mundane things, are taken away at the time of death, and one must start from zero in the next life, but not so in the case of bhakti, as we were discussing before. Okay. Then Srila Prabhupada makes another very good point. He says, if we are presently engaged in Krishna consciousness, in other words, if we are performing devotional service, then we are guaranteed to get a human life in the next life. Like guaranteed to get a human life. And therefore, someone who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, even if not able to complete the Bhakti Yoga, the course of Bhakti Yoga, I should say, or perfection of Bhakti Yoga, then, as I was saying before, quoting 641 and 642, they'll be born in the family of a pious person or aristocratic person, or the family of a yogi. Well, they'll start their bhakti from the point they had left off in the previous birth. And again, just repeating myself, that's not so for mundane people performing material activities. Their next birth is determined by the laws of karma. And there's no guarantee of human birth. And as you know, the famous verse spoken by Kapil Dev to his mother Devhuti, Karmana Dev Netrena, right? Jantur Deho Pattay, where he says that there are witnesses to our activities, and they become the witness when time comes to decide what kind of body we're going to get. And accordingly, we enter the womb of a particular female parent as per the laws of karma. So there's no guarantee there, but in bhakti, there's guarantee. No matter what, you take birth as human, either in a devotee family or an aristocratic family where the facilities for devotional service are present. So therefore, all Krishna conscious activities, all bhaktis, amrit, are permanent. And that is the subject matter of nectar of devotion. Let me pause for a second and see if there's any questions that you're struggling with or you want to ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
I have one question. You just mentioned that we start with bhakti, whatever we have left in wherever we have left in the previous birth.
Right.
Can you please explain this little bit more?
So can I explain what?
Can you please explain this, like how this works?
How this works? Okay. So basically, think of something that's never destroyed, and it goes with you along with your subtle body. So just like the karmas go with you, devotional service or devotional credits go with you as well. The only difference is that particular guarantee has been given by Krishna about the human body, whereas in the laws of karma, it depends upon yam yam vapi smarana bhava. Whatever you're thinking about at the moment of death, that's the body you get. And your karmas determine what kind of life you're going to have in the next life. Whereas in the case of bhakti, Krishna says, no, this is indestructible. Neha vikram nashasti. There's no diminution, there's no loss, and never goes away. So it's like, the example I can think of is that if you're coming from India to Canada, there's one, let's say first time, there's one thing you must do along with the visa. And that is you must convert rupees to Canadian dollars. Because you cannot go buy gas with Indian rupees. You cannot buy groceries with Indian rupees. Because that currency doesn't go. So similarly, the karma currency doesn't go with us. Sorry, it goes with us, but with no guarantees. Whereas bhakti currency is there with you and gives you the human form, and therefore you can spend it. And there's no diminution of that. Like the bank balance is coming with you. So I don't know if I did a good job of explaining. But basically, there's no loss or diminution of whatever credits you got. It's like your money. Stays with you all the time. Did it make any sense, Mansi? Otherwise, I'll try to explain it differently.
Yeah. It makes sense, Prabhuji. It makes sense now. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank
Good.
you.
Sure. Usha Mataji, you are asking?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, so being saying that, it means that most, not all, I don't know, most of the devotees, Hindus, devotees are the devotees of the Krishna in previous Janma as well, in the previous life, because that's why they believe in Krishna in this, or they are born in the like a well-off family or the devotional family, which means
Yeah.
that.
So anybody who takes birth in a Vaishnava family, it means that they were performing devotional service in their previous life.
Mm.
And that is why it is considered very lucky situation to take birth in the home of a devotee. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in a particular prayer, is saying, my dear Lord, don't make me Brahma if I'm not going to be serving you. Make me an insect, make me a dog, but in the house of a devotee, because I know there I'll be serving you. So that's the desire of a pure devotee. And Krishna says, I'll fulfill that desire of anybody, not even necessarily pure devotee, who is into Krishna consciousness, who chants my name, performs devotional service at whatever level. I'll give him a chance or her a chance to improve from that point. So that is Krishna's plan.
So let's say, for example, the people who are born in the Hindu family and from a one mother.
Did you say Hindu or
half of-
devotee? I'm sorry.
Reborn.
Sorry, Usha, I can't hear you.
Yeah, Hindu family or the
No, but there's a difference. That's what
whoever
I'm asking.
believes
Say
in
Hindu
the
family.
Krishna. Yeah, whoever believes in Krishna. So the Hindus mostly believe in Krishna, not
Well,
all
not all.
Christians or anybody
That's why
else.
I want to make sure. So let's say Hindu family who believes in Krishna, who serves Krishna.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So let's say within one family, half of the family believes in Krishna, and within the same family, half they don't. They don't believe in any god. But they
Okay.
were previously in previous life, they were all human beings.
Sorry,
right?
previous life what?
They were all human beings. They were all
Well, we don't know
human
that.
beings.
We don't know that.
In this life, they are human beings.
Okay,
This
but that
is the
doesn't mean
reason they were
human beings in
also.
last life. It doesn't mean that.
So according to the Vedas, that we only get the human life because we have good karmas or good devotional life, right? In the previous life. I'm just confused.
No, that's what I'm saying. That is not a correct understanding. That's one of the ways. So we said, if you are a devotee in this life, you'll get a human birth. But it's also possible that you've gone through the laws of karma, and now you should turn to take birth as a human being. But the people who come straight from hell and take a human birth. And it's noted that you can sometimes tell that this person was in hell in his previous life. So just because you're human in this life does not mean you were necessarily human in the last life.
Then
It
how
can
will
be.
my karmas were good in order to get the
No,
human
but
life
mother,
in
you have
this
to
birth?
understand, karmas don't work based on just previous life. It could be karmas of life 5,000 lives ago.
Oh, okay. Not
Right?
only
So
previous
it's
life,
not
many
just previous.
years
You
ago.
have taken millions of births.
Yes.
So every human birth you had, you collected karmas. And any of them can become active and give you human birth.
I got it now.
Okay.
But this is the last chance.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope this is our last life as in the material world. Let's hope that.
Yeah, as long as obviously we know now. So
Well, okay, great. I'm happy to hear that. That's a message for
least.
all of us.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Damodar Charan Prabhu, thank you for your patience.
Oh, thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, I had a question actually. So a little bit clarification. I think I know, I understand it. I know, but I want to know your opinion on this particular thing. So, like we say that Antakalecha Mam, like Krishna says that whatever you think at the time of death, that's the body you get. But at the same time, Krishna even says in Bhagavad Gita that a devotee takes birth in a Vaishnava family or, like in a Brahmanical family or rich family to perform his devotion where he left from. Now, But what about, like, many times, for example, Bharat Maharaj, he was on a bhava level, but he took he thought about deer at the time of his death, and he entered into the body of deer. So how is Krishna right in which situation?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. That's a very, very good question. So the next verse to what you quoted is Yamyam Vapi Smarana Bhava. So because Bharat Maharaj was thinking about the deer to which he had become so attached, he took the body of a deer. However, if you go to the next part of that same story, he never forgot as a deer who he was. And then the very next birth, he became a human being and remembered everything from his previous life, including the philosophy. So, I mean, the philosophy that he gave to Rahugana, King Rahugana, is unbelievable. Not for any ordinary person to be able to do that. So that becomes a link again.
So Shastra does not contradict each other. It's
No,
this
they
and
can't.
this both together.
Only the Munis contradict each other. The Shastras don't.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Sure, you're very welcome. Thank you, Prabhu. Ajay Kumar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanyavad Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhu. As per Srila Prabhupada told, whomever follow my principles for regulative principle and chanting, so they delivered. So, and as per our discussion is going on next, if you do, if you are not completing your devotional activities, you will be able to get next janma as a human being. So what is the meaning, Prabhu? So Srila Prabhupada is told that one, right?
Sorry, so Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada told what?
If you follow my regulative principle and do chanting, and you'll go to the back to Godhead. That is the sure they told. That's what I understanding. So
Well,
now
So I wish it was that simple.
It means that if you are not following correctly, we'll get a human being, or what is the meaning?
That's it. So if you're not doing it if you're doing it without offenses, then yes, you go back home at Godhead. But while you're chanting, you're committing offenses, then you have a little wait before you go to Golok Vrindavan.
In according that question, if you're taking next birth as a human being, if you become as a rich person, let us example Anil Ambani son or whatever it is there, so how will you able to remember Krishna Prabhu?
No, but that's remember I was saying that you have the option. No, okay. Remember I said you have the option to take it from where you live. But whatever you have is still with you. You may decide not to continue from that point and become a complete materialistic person. That's your choice. But remember, the free will is always there. Free will never goes away. So you still have the choice to be a devotee or not be a devotee, even if you're a devotee.
But so that depends on what you want in this life.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And depends how much knowledge and awareness you have.
Well, no, it's more than that. It's how do you want to use your free will? And the two options are serve Krishna or serve Maya. So that's your choice. That choice you always have.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead, Prabhu. Sorry.
According to this conversation, going to one more question. Apart from that,
sure.
Let us example. My name is Ajay Kumar. Krishna will know when I will able to deliver to the Golok, whatever it is, going to backhead. So whether Krishna will know, Prabhu, that one?
So Prabhu, what's the name of your soul?
Soul, I don't have no soul name.
Whose name is Ajay Kumar?
It is a body, Prabhu.
Yeah, there you go. So Krishna doesn't care about the body. That's Maya's job.
So the question is, Krishna already known, Prabhu, when I will go to the backhead.
Krishna knows. He's not telling you. Yes, he knows.
Then where is the free will coming, Prabhu, again? See, Krishna, I know everything, and it is like a free will also is there. So because Krishna, let us example, after 20 years, 30 years, I am going to backhead. It is already known.
I wish Krishna. It was that simple, Prabhu. 20, 30 years, I wish.
Example, let's take something example, Prabhu. 20
yes,
some X number, Krishna.
Yeah.
But here also is coming free will, Prabhu. So both are contradicting, Prabhu. So how to understand it?
Not at all. Free will basically says that you are choosing
Mm,
to serve either Krishna or Maya.
yeah.
Just the fact that Krishna knows doesn't mean he takes away your free will. Your free will basically means that he will not interfere. He knows when you will decide, but he's not interfering. He lets you decide. So I don't know where the contradiction is. He's not interfering in your free will. That's all it means.
Okay.
Can I elaborate, Prabhu? Maybe I can. My same, Prabhu. My question is the same. You say that there is a free will. At the same time, we say if Krishna wants it, then this will happen. If Krishna
No.
doesn't want
Okay.
it, this will not
Okay.
happen. Then where
Mataji.
is the free will?
Okay,
Yeah.
so okay, let's postpone that discussion because that'll take the rest of half an hour.
Sorry,
And we're not
Prabhu.
getting it. So let's continue with the art topic,
Hmm.
and we can take it offline. So after the class, if you want to stay back after 9:30, we can do this.
Okay.
Sure, Prabhu.
Okay, bro?
Yes.
Don't mind, because otherwise I would not be able to
Finish it.
finish this. Okay,
Sorry.
Nandimukhi, you have a
Sure,
question?
Prabhu.
No, it's okay. Nandimukhi?
Yes, Pitashri, I have just very small question. Janki Jivan has one question if you have time. Otherwise, we can wait.
No, go
Pitashri.
ahead. Go ahead.
It's okay because he has gone somewhere. That's why.
Yeah, that's okay. Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna,
Dandavat
Prabhu,
pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, obeisances to you, all glories to Prabhupada and Gauranga.
Jai.
Prabhu, basically it's a question for myself. Like sometime when we do, like I'm just coming from doing the DT service today afternoon, but sometimes we have to rush to do the DT service. Sometimes we are late 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So is it okay, or like are we getting bad karma or not a proper effect of it when we have to adjust timing sometime when we're doing the full aarti? So you have to go a little chamra, a little less, and then the peacock feather also a little less. There are some items you cannot adjust, but there are a few items you can adjust. Is it okay, or like it's okay, or it's not okay?
So if it is something out of your control, then it's okay. If you're using it as an excuse and be lazy or whatever, then it's not okay. And it is mentioned in the book of DT worship that there may be time when you cannot do 7 times chamar or 7 times fan. That's okay. But as long as it's not being done deliberately, I'll take my time starting the arti, then I'll rush it. That's not good. But for some reason, and sometimes it happens, then it's fine. But Krishna is very understanding, but he knows the intention. If the intention is fine, then he's fine. If intention is not fine, then no, he's not fine.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. Sure.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ashok Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, I have a question like, is it a correct statement to say that bhakti is exclusively reserved for Krishna only and not for anyone else, not even for demigods? Or
No. So basically, Prabhu, yeah, bhakti can be for anyone. But when we are talking about bhakti in the context of nectar of devotion, we talk about bhakti
only
to Lord Krishna.
yes.
Okay. You can be a
Okay.
Shiva Bhakta, you can be a Brahma Bhakta, you can be Indra Bhakta, Surya Bhakta. That's different. In nectar of devotion, we're not talking about that.
And then when we are talking about this thing that whatever we do bhakti for Krishna, which is eternal, we're talking specifically about Krishna, meaning, right? Because we don't know, for let's say if somebody is demigod's bhakta, then that may not be eternal.
Correct. Now, Krishna or his Vishnu Tattva incarnations.
Vishnu Tattva. Yes.
Okay. So it applies there.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Last question. Nima Mataji was asking a question. I saw her hand, then she disappeared.
Okay, Prabhuji, I was just wondering, like when they were thinking about the interfering part of it, like I think there's a soul and super soul, right? Like okay, Krishna is there. He gives us everything, but he never interferes in our life because he gives us what we want to do, and that's on our brain and our power and whatever we have been brought up to this stage. in our karma, that's how we're going to do what we are doing. Is that right?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So typically, we are governed by our modes of material nature. So if you've studied Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse in chapter 3, text 27, which says, Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha, which means that it's our modes of material nature that force us to do certain things. In same chapter, text 5, Krishna says, Nahi kaschit chalamapi jatatishyati akarmakat karite avasha karma. Avasha means helplessly. He does survive prakriti jayaguna. Whatever his modes of material nature are, is forced to do that. So typically we are forced by our nature. But our choice is, in that case, what nature we get according to our karma, and our karmas are our choices. So it's very complicated, mother. It's very complicated. Just keep it simple that we have the choice to serve Krishna or not serve Krishna. When we choose not to serve Krishna, we lose all other control. Now we're totally under control of modes of material nature, and we're just going like a man tied with a rope around his stomach. And we do whatever the material nature says we have to do. On the other hand, when we choose Krishna, then also we lose control. Because Krishna's yoga takes control, and we do whatever she says. So either way, we really don't have control except to decide. That's the only control we have. We can decide to serve Krishna or to serve Maya, but as soon as we make a decision either way, we lose control.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, you're welcome, mother. Okay, let's move on, otherwise we'll get late. All right. Okay. The book Nectar of Devotion explains the process of devotional service. And if you follow that process, then another guarantee is given that we will be elevated from the material conditioned life, which is, as you know, full of miseries, full of anxieties. But we'll be elevated from that life to a spiritual life where there are no anxieties, there are no miseries. It's called Vaikuntha. No material miseries, no material anxieties. But don't be confused. When we say Vaikuntha, we are including Vrindavan Dham, Golok Vrindavan, because higher than Vaikuntha. So whatever is present in Vaikuntha is present in Golok Vrindavan Dham and more. Okay. And when that happens, when we achieve the spiritual status, the first thing that happens is that we lose all designations. So anything to do with the body, whether it's our title like Mr. and Mrs. or Doctor and whatever, that's all gone. And when our senses become purified and we employ them in the service of Krishna, then we are able to taste the Bhakti Rasa, the mellows of Bhakti. Until then, for example, the condition that I am in, my senses are not purified. So I don't get taste of chanting. I don't get taste of deity worship. I don't get taste of discussions and all those kind of things. The taste is missing. Whatever I'm doing is more mechanical than anything else. But once my senses are purified, I'll actually taste the nectar, which is what pure devotees are able to do. Right? I should also point out, just by the way, that we talk about Varnashram system. So there are 3 stages of human beings, or 3 levels if you want to call it. One is the animal level, where all we want to do is eat, mate, defend, and sleep. So sleep, eat, mate, and defend. That's all we're doing as humans. Then we're basically at animal level, because animals do the same thing. They actually do it better than us. The next level is when we follow the Varnashram system. Then we come to what's called human level. And that's where dharma, artha, kama, and moksha becomes important. But when we start doing bhakti, then we rise above the human level to what is called Vaishnava level or Bhakta level. And that's the level that nectar of devotion strives to get us to. Okay? The bhakti, performance of bhakti will purify the senses. And actually, in nectar of devotion, we'll discuss quite a bit later on. There's a very famous verse which says, Sarvapadi vinirmuktam partatve nirmalam nishike sevanam bhakti uchyate. It's defining, Rupa Goswami is defining bhakti as the engagement of purified senses in the service of Krishna. So in the beginning, we're doing what's known as Vaidhi Bhakti, which is according to rules and regulations under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master or the scriptures or both. But once we get to the Raganuga stage, we'll talk about later on, then everything is automatic, it's spontaneous. The eagerness to serve Krishna is there. The Krishna Darshan Lalasa is there. Is to see Krishna, to serve Krishna, all those things there. And that's when we start to actually develop the taste for devotional service. Right? Just coming back to a point that I have made earlier. We're talking about the animal level. So animals who eat, drink, mate, and defend, they also have the propensity to love. And if all we do is have the propensity to love material things like relatives and country, etc., then we are living the animal level of life without being the animal. And therefore, our loving propensity is not satisfied. As I was mentioning before, the only way we can satisfy our loving propensity is if we introduce Krishna in the... Sorry, Mataji? Can everyone please keep yourself on mute, please? Thank you. So, unless we love Krishna, our propensity is not going to be satisfied. And that is what nectar of devotion teaches us, how to rekindle that original love for Krishna, which will satisfy our loving propensity and allow us to enjoy a blissful life without any anxiety or miseries. When we love Krishna, we love everyone. And that's the theme of nectar of devotion. It teaches us how to love Krishna, not in one way, not in two ways, not in three ways. How many ways? Anybody? How many mellows?
64.
5. Yes, thank you. 5. So those 5 mellows are, anybody?
Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So we can love Krishna in any of those 5 mellows. Nectar of Devotion also talks about another very famous verse that we'll discuss later on, maybe a month from now, which says, Anya Abhilashta Shunyam, Gyan Karmadya Navratam. Right? It means that Bhakti Rasa, or pure Bhakti, is devoid of anything external. Any external pleasures, any desire for external things or external pleasures is devoid of those. The senses become pure and the original pure love is awakened when that happens. Otherwise, our love is directed towards the wrong things, which is material things. And it is not the emotion of the soul, but it's the emotion of the body. So emotion of the soul is pure love of Krishna. Emotion of the body is pure love for material things. I'm using pure, quote unquote, in a sarcastic way. So Bhakti Yoga that we hear so often is the process by which one develops bhakti. So as you know, yoga means connection. And so it's the process of connecting us with Krishna. Okay. So Bhakti Yoga, you can say, is the emotion and the action that comes when we have connected with Krishna. Hopefully that's clear. So again, I'm going to repeat the same point a few times, but I want to make sure is totally and completely understood. So going back to the same point, everybody needs somebody to love. We need to love somebody. We have the propensity to love somebody. Nobody can live without loving somebody else. But here's the problem. Generally speaking, there's no information on whom to love, which will make everybody happy. And we know from our experience, we try to make a sister happy, another sister becomes angry. We try to make wife happy, mother becomes unhappy, and so on and so forth. We take any examples, number of examples. Same thing with clients or competitors and all that. You cannot make everybody happy until you find the missing point of loving. That missing point is Krishna. When we love Krishna, then it's like we love everyone. Going back to the point about example about the root, you water the root, all the branches, the twigs, the leaves, they all become nourished. When you put the food in the stomach, then all the limbs of a body become nourished. Similarly, when we worship Krishna, all the demigods, all the people, all the living entities become happy, because the broader definition of Krishna is Krishna plus everybody. And that's the whole point that Nectar of Devotion is trying to teach us. It's going to give us a process which will rekindle our original love for Krishna. It will tell us how to be situated in that position of bhakti where we can enjoy a blissful life without any material anxiety or any material miseries. And it emphasizes the point that our love can be fully satisfied only when that love is directed towards Krishna. And once again, to repeat my point, that's because Krishna includes everything and everyone. There's nothing that exists independent of Krishna. There's nothing that's not in the jurisdiction of Krishna. There's nothing that is not created by Krishna. There's nothing that's not in Krishna. Nothing can exist. And again, that's the sum and substance. That's the theme of Nectar of Devotion. It teaches us how to love Krishna in the 5 different mellows. It teaches us how to develop devotional service. It teaches how to get rid of propensity to love anything material, anything related to the body. And it's all about Krishna, 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 loving Krishna, and nothing but loving Krishna. So I'm going to stop here. I do have 10 minutes for other questions and answers, including the ones that were already asked. So go ahead.
Prabhu, just wanted to confirm one thing.
Go ahead.
Actually, I'm confused, so I wanted to know. When we say the Bhakti level already includes the Varnashram also, right?
In a way, because it brings you to human level.
Okay. Okay.
But remember what Lord Chaitanya said to Rai Ramanan.
Yes.
Eto bahya. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. This is external. Come higher.
Yes.
Also, you know that for a devotee, Varnashram is irrelevant because, first of all, it's an offense to ask a devotee, what is your jati? What's your caste?
Yes.
Right? So it just transcends the whole Varnashram system. Always remember the verse 26 from chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita. Mam cha yo avabhicharena bhakti yogana sevate. Sagurana samtiti etan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. You transcend above all these material things. The gunas, the varnashram, all these things. These are material. Varnashram totally material. It relates to the body. Right? Varnashram has nothing to do with soul. So yes, it's above that, therefore it includes it, but it does not have anything to do with it. You could be a woman, you could be a Shudra, you could be a Baniya, mercantile, you could be a Kshatriya, you could be a Brahmin, you could be on the altar. If you're properly initiated, you're clear enough to do that, right? And of course, chanting is no consideration of anything, no consideration of any fitness, right? So these are all above Varnashram.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
You're very welcome. Thanks for a great question. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhu, what is Varn Ashram in Hindi? I mean, in English, I don't know. I didn't get it.
Varnashram, like they have 4 Varnas and 4 ashrams. 4 Varnas are Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And ashrams are Sannyasi, Vanprasth, Grihastha, and Brahmachari. So Varnashram is both the 8 things, the 4 statuses, and 4 positions.
Oh, I got it. I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Nana Mataji, you had a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Krishna, good to see you.
Thank you. Prabhu, it's out of curiosity I'm asking. What happened? We are talking about that whatever bhakti we accumulate now continues in our future lives. So what is that switch that flick? I feel right now myself, I'm like, what was going on in my brain for 30 some years of my life when I could not think of Krishna, and all of a sudden some switch flipped and I'm like, okay, Krishna is everything. So why I could not, feel that power, why I could not have that connection for those many years, and then something happened and now I'm like, okay, it's all about Krishna. How?
So, yeah, great question.
Why?
Great question. So if you know the life and pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, he was until the age of, I think, 18, I guess, where he was totally a scholar. He never chanted Krishna's name. He was busy defeating everybody in Shastrarth. And he was an expert on grammar and logic. And that's what he taught. But then he went to Gaya and met a pure devotee by the name of Ishwarpuri. Got initiated and suddenly became a pure devotee. And so much so that he didn't want to come back home. He ran to Vrindavan. He was stopped by a voice from the sky that, my dear Lord, you're independent to do whatever you want, but now is not the time. So he came back, but then he started devotional service. Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, he was, a devotee because he was born in a devotee family, but majority of his activities were materialistic. Right? Until he said, okay, enough. I'm going to give up all this. So there's a time for everything. Just because the seed is there, it doesn't mean it sprouts as soon as you're born. Sometimes it takes time for whatever reason. Because remember, because we're not pure, we are a combination of our karmas and our devotional credits. So yeah,
just like bamboos.
Huh?
I said just like bamboos, sometimes they just don't appear right away.
But almost always, actually not almost, always it is by the mercy of a devotee that your devotional service comes up. So when we meet a devotee, then something happens and comes up. But also remember, there's a verse in Canto 3, text 30, chapter 33, text 7. I think it goes something like Aho Batsupako Ato Gariyan Yajjihva Gre Vartate Nam Tubhyam. He says, a person, no matter who he is, if he's chanting the name of yourself, which is the Lord, then he's already gone through reading all the scriptures, performing all sorts of sacrifices, all the pious activities, and some devotional service. So the fact that chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra means you've already gone through all that. That's just a matter of when it comes out. And that's different for everybody. Right? Sometimes because of the influence of Maya and the material world, you're born a devotee, you act like a devotee, then you come to a country like Canada, and for a few years, you just get lost completely. And then you say, what the hell am I doing? And you come back. I was talking about my life. So yeah, it could be any combination, but the point is you will come back.
Thank you, Prabhu. And my takeaway from this class is Bhakti and nectar together, Bhakti Rasa Amrit. So this is my takeaway from the class. The Amrit continues not just in this life, life after life.
There you go. Yes, absolutely right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anyone else? Okay, all right. So let's talk about next week. Next week, Thursday is the Gaur Purnima, the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya. And I think most temples are now having programs in person. So I'm guessing, and you can correct me if that's not true, that all the temples will have an in-person program, which means we may not have an attendance in this class. So I was thinking that perhaps we could just postpone this next class to week after, and let's all celebrate Gaur Purnima at our own individual temples. That way there would be no conflict. Is that acceptable to all of you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, all right. So I will set a note out that there will be no class this coming Thursday.
Temple will be open.
Temple is open, yes, Mataji. Yes, you can go in.
In the daytime or in the evening?
You can go anywhere between 4:30 in the morning till 7:30 in the evening.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
And I'm assuming that like Muskoka and Vancouver and Milton and Brampton, they're all open, right?
So there will be a crowd as usual.
Well, yeah, let's see how much crowd, but yeah, it will be more than we have seen in the last couple of years.
Okay.
Excuse me, Prabhuji, and I heard the mask thing is over too by next week. So I think in Vancouver too and Toronto, but we should wear the mask anyway.
I agree. So officially, as of Monday this week, we don't have to have a mask on, but I'm going to put mine and hoping that others will do too as well. But you're right, it's not mandatory anymore. However, they made the point of saying, let people have their choice. If they don't want to wear it, respect that. If they want to wear it, respect that.
Free will.
Free, yes,
Free will.
yes, there
Free
you
will.
go. Free will. Approved by the
Free will, but free wish. Free wish.
Yes, yes. Okay,
Now
so,
catch.
that's right. So if there are no other questions, I'm going to invite back the people who are trying to ask some questions, and I said no. If you wish to stay, and again, not everybody has to stay. Whoever wants to stay can, and I can answer the questions. You'll have to ask again, whatever questions you have before we wrap up.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Ali.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so no questions?
Yeah, Prabhu, we can continue.
Okay, so go ahead. If you have a question, go ahead. And once again, anybody who doesn't want to stay, that's fine.
Yeah, Prabhu, just asking, a person, if you take soul, is coming from the Goloka Vrindavan to Bhuma, earth.
Sorry, bro. Hold on. Say again.
A person is coming from the Goloka Vrindavan or spiritual world to material world.
Okay,
Say,
so before you go, nobody's forced to come from Golok Vrindavan to material world.
He's come with own, Prabhu.
I'm sorry?
He's come with own.
With what?
He's come with own, Prabhu.
With own, what does that mean?
Own desire.
No. It's only when Krishna says, I want you to go to the material world and do this for me and then come back.
Okay.
That's the only time somebody comes from Golok Vrindavan to material world.
Okay. Let us example. If you take an example, in Earth planet, there are so many people are there. So let's take one soul. Krishna, as per we discussed, right? Every soul will have a free will. So let us example, Krishna know, right, when he will come back to Goloka Vrindavan, whether Krishna will know or not, Prabhu. That is the first question.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Krishna always knows, but he doesn't interfere with your decisions. So I'm not sure what the confusion is. He's not interfering with your decisions. That's why it's your free will.
Okay.
But he knows when you will decide to not to serve him. He knows that. He's not telling you.
Okay. Oh, okay, Prabhu. Because I will give one example. Let us example a engineer, a very experienced engineer is building a one not engineer, a very big stock member. Is know any analysis everything. So let us example, he purchasing one share with $100. He don't know whether it will go $100 more or less, but still he don't have a hope. He will always put it the hope on the market only. Similarly, Krishna will also don't know or not. Just now, as per your conversation, we discussed is that Krishna know everything. That's right, na Prabhu. So he will know. A person is coming here, so he will know when he will going to back head. Then he will also interfering, right now, Prabhu.
I don't understand the question. Like I keep saying,
Mm-hmm.
Krishna knows, but he does not interfere. He doesn't tell you and doesn't tell you what to do.
Okay.
You decide, but he knows when you will decide, but he's not telling you.
He know na Prabhu when I will decide.
That's what I'm saying. He knows everything, including that, but he's not going to tell you.
Okay. Sure, Prabhu. Okay, I understand, Prabhu. Before I am thinking that Krishna doesn't know anything. We because
How is that
as per your
possible? How is that possible?
No.
Krishna doesn't know anything.
Because I am understanding differently, Prabhu.
Okay. All right. Sure. No problem.
Because we are thinking Krishna is a supreme personality Godhead. We know that because I purchase a rice from the hotel, rice from the some grocery store, but he don't know what I will cook. So he will give the rice, but I cook whatever I want. But similarly, this is my life. I am because whomever is giving Krishna grocery rice, he know that what I will prepare in before also. That's what you are trying to say is.
He knows everything.
Okay, Prabhu. Understand. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Nandakumar Prabhu, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So like related question or comment only again. So first thing, I think not all soul has come from spiritual world to this earth.
No, hold on. So that's not a correct statement either. So there are two theories. One says that we were all in the spiritual world and we developed a desire to enjoy and be the masters, so we came to the material world. Another theory says that we were never there, but we were at the doorstep with a choice to go in to the spiritual world or come out to the material world. And some of us chose to come out, so we are here. We are. So those are two options. The point is that we don't want to worry about where we were. Let's worry about how do we go back. And everything we do is about how do we go back now that we are here.
Yeah, shall I add one thing, Prabhu, here?
So hold on. No, Prabhu, just hold on. Let me finish with Nandakumar Prabhu. Okay, just hold on. Nandakumar Prabhu, do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So don't worry. Like I say, there are two controversial answers. But Prabhupada said it doesn't matter which one is right. The point is, no use worrying about where you're coming from. Worry about how do you go back to the spiritual world.
Okay.
That's what this whole book is about.
Okay. I have one more question. Like, I think, okay, so the question was, so once we decide that, or at okay, so now that we are, okay, a person who is a devotee is guaranteed to be born as human being in the next birth in a pious family or a Vaishnava family, correct?
I still probably, yeah.
Okay, so Okay, the question is actually why okay, what is the importance there and why it has to be like that?
Well, the importance is that Krishna wants to facilitate your progress. So he's giving you the opportunity, but still leaving it to you. So it is possible that you're born in a Vaishnava family and still don't want to be devotee. I know so many families. Yeah. One child is devotee, one child has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness.
But even without that, I can choose to be a devotee again, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's your choice. You always have
so
that
this
choice.
Is like, okay, this is like a favorable condition to go one more step ahead.
Correct. But it's still your choice.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Still my choice. Yeah, that is where the confusion is. Okay. Okay.
I mean, look at it this way. Hiranyakashipu was a demon. His son Prahlad chose to be a devotee. Prahlad Maharaj was a pure devotee. His son Virochan chose to be a demon. His son was, Virochan's son Bali Maharaj was a demon until Vamandev came.
Yeah. So now the question again, like, how does it matter if we are born in a pious family or a devotee family?
It doesn't.
Like,
it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
All that we're saying is that it's easier. Remember, Usha Mata is talking about if the family is not favorable, then it becomes very hard. So Krishna said, okay, I'll give a situation where it's not so hard, but you still have to decide. Right? Even when you're born to a yogi family, you can choose not to be a devotee. That choice always there.
Okay. So now the so-called yogi family or devotee family, right? Like,
yeah,
that. Okay, how do we know that that family is still genuine or not, right? Like, I mean, favorable, we say that it could be a favorable condition, but okay, now the question, very simple question, is it always going to be a favorable condition?
For who?
For the person who is about to take birth in that family.
So if it's devotee, the situation is going to be there in a favorable way, but even a favorable way, you have to decide.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. I know so many devotee families where the 3 children, 1 or 2 are very, very devoted, others nothing to do with it. We're going to meat eating and all sorts of other nonsense. No matter what the parents say, they will not do it. And then we know some families, I'm just talking about practical experience in Toronto, right? I know some families where the young person is coming to the temple, but is getting all sorts of problems with the parents, but they don't want him to come to the temple. So, I mean, my point is, it can be either. It's just easier when it's favorable, but even when it's easier, you can choose not to.
Okay.
Right? So, choice is always yours.
Okay. So, okay, now the favorable will definitely be favorable. That there is no, I mean, so okay. Now, even though I decide, will there be a condition where it is not favorable?
No, I was talking about favorable environment. So nobody's opposing you if you want to be a devotee, but you yourself choose not to be a devotee. What can you do?
Okay. So okay, I understand now. So then it really doesn't matter whether it is favorable or not favorable.
Correct.
Okay.
It's easier when it's favorable.
Okay. And what? Yeah, it is easier once it is favorable. And if you have already decided to be a devotee, it really doesn't matter whether it is favorable or not. Again,
ask Prahlad Maharaj.
Yeah.
Right? Cannot be any more unfavorable than that.
Yeah. That's where my doubt, and yeah, I think it is clarified now. Okay.
I'm glad. Okay. And thank you for asking.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Ajay Kumar Prabhu, are you still there?
Yeah, I want to add. Once one time Srila Prabhupada is asked same question, whether how we came decide. Then Srila Prabhupada is given state for answer. So a person is came on the ocean and is looking for the He won't ask any question how I came. He wanted to see how can I able to get out from
That's
this
right.
ocean.
That's
So
right.
similarly, it is a samsara sadaram. Some or other way we came. Don't discuss on all the things, how we came, what he came. Try to come out from this samsara sagara and go to your spiritual world. Then you will get an answer all this, whatever it is.
Correct. Yes, correct.
And one more real example is a person is having a COVID. He got a COVID. He went outside, whether a party gone, somewhere it is gone. He won't discuss more the things. He need to know how to come out. So he will never discuss. So how the COVID is came. So he always thinking how to get out from the COVID. So similarly, this is also our COVID situation only. Everybody in the material world. So we need to come out and go to Goloka Vrindavan. Let's
Good
work on
example.
that one.
Good example. Yes, very good. Thank you. Yeah, very nice. I see Indu Lekha Mataji. Mataji, do I have your email address? Not, can you please put it in the chat? Then I can start sending you the emails as well without the programs. Because sometimes the times change, sometimes other things happen.
Prabhu, last week we discussed you're about to discuss on the 7 dhams about Radha Madhavji, how it is.
No, but at some point in time, not right away. The idea was
whenever you have time, Prabhu.
Yeah.
And one more request, Prabhu, whenever discussing Nectar of Devotion, just add your real stories, Prabhu, like how it is happened. So that will have a very very interesting. It will come, Prabhu.
Sure.
I am requesting. You know already. Just we are requesting on.
No, I understand. Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry, last week I missed a class, and this week I joined in another meeting, and then I asked, and I got this correct link. So I will post my. Shall I tell you now, or shall I email?
Yeah, we just posted the chat, Mataji. That's why I remember that. I just want to make sure that whenever there's any change, you know about it.
Yes.
So having your email is nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ani. Thank you for joining us. Very welcome.
Very nice conversation going on, question and answers. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure, Mother. Thank you. And where are you based?
I am in BC, Prabhuji, unfortunately.
Okay. Unfortunately, why?
Because I miss my congregation in Milton. I miss all the devotees. I miss everyone.
Oh, so you're not in Vancouver.
I mean Victoria.
Victoria, okay.
Yeah,
So they're opening a temple there soon, I heard. They are doing some program.
Not in Victoria, Prabhuji, not ISKCON, not ISKCON temple. They are opening other temples.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Because it's good to keep me posted, because most of the time I'm in the UK. So I'm here I just came like 10 days ago. I'm going soon again. So I will be like able to follow the class.
Sure, that's great, Mother. I'm glad you can, and you're very welcome.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, your class is very nice, Prabhu. Very natural you are giving.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
It is. Whenever we are. Last week my heart is broken, Prabhu. You told all the story. I didn't. It is very, very nice that while dreaming also I am getting all your things only, Prabhu.
That's great. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Any other comments from anyone or questions?
So Prabhuji, what we missed last week, where are we going to find it now, Prabhuji?
So, Nima Mataji, I'm going to send you a recording. This is recorded. All sessions are recorded. So I will send you the link to the recording of the first week so that you can catch up.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
You're very welcome. I saw you in the Bhagavatam class on Tuesday.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Vancouver.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Have a darshan, everybody. Have a darshan.
Sorry, Mother. Oh, darshan. Okay, so she's pointing at the Vancouver temple. Mother, can you rotate your camera so we can see the whole thing?
Is it good, Prabhu?
You can barely see it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, can you go closer to the deities?
That is the closest I can go. There is a stage.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I can barely see it.
The closest I can go, Prabhu.
Also, you need to rotate your camera because it looks like everybody's standing horizontal.
now?
That's better. That's better.
My favorite, one of my favorite dashes, Maharaji.
Okay. Thank you, mother. So there's Aarti going on. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. If not, then I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. And I'll see you in 2 weeks, all of you.
Vancha kalpatarubhyo.
Kalpatarubbhyascha krapasindubhya eva cha.
Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Rupa
Prabhuji.
Goswami
Krishna
ki jai.
Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nitya. How are you?
I'm good, Prabhuji. How are you?
I'm happy to see you.
Oh, I'm happy to see you all too, and you. I'm happy I'm able to sit here and actually listen to your class.
Yeah, actually,
Otherwise, it's always traveling.
I think we are always happy to see you. It's nice to have.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for a very wonderful class. It was amazing. Reminding me of the old days when we actually had a Nectar of Devotion class.
Oh, yeah,
We
that's
used
right.
to be in
That's right.
person.
That's right. I know. I know.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Very
We did for a
nice.
long
Thank
time.
you, sir.
Yeah.
I know. That was very nice. But
Yeah.
this is good too. At least we are having it.
Yeah, no,
Thank
it's a
you.
nice refresher. Yeah.
Thank you. You
Okay.
do so much work. You put in so much work into this. Thank you.
It's all my service.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
everyone.
Hare Krishna.